Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye
Tonight, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, a lot is taking place so fast. Therefore, everybody must work hard to stay on the cutting edge as far as making sense of our politics is concerned, and of course, remaining on top.
You are watching Sound Candy Talk live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. This is Sound Candy Talk, the home where you can ease life and change our lifestyle of politics. And tonight, I welcome you for the Open Forum show so that we can have a great conversation tonight and have a great agreement tonight. So that tonight, when we are talking out, we are bringing out the good thing or the high things of the out. For us, we start today, I'll begin with the highlights. And tonight, I am Shadiz of being driving you the driving seat. And tonight on the polity, on the night, on the Rumbeja Sisters tonight, we'll be checking out the response from other corners of the Kenyans. And also, apart from that one, we'll be also checking about the stories that has been in the headline today. On the stories that leading on our lineup is a sort of what happened for Shakahola. We still get some bodies and some stories of other 48 people who are being get today. Apart from that one, also we'll be checking out the story of the Kupet, by saying that the parents were supposed to go back to paying the school fees of the high school students because they don't have the money anymore, or because of the reason. We will get to hear and get more about the reason. We believe that we'll get about the story of the Gachagua on our political front, and also is checking about the Ruto speech today, saying that no one term, and they say how wanasema Ruto must go. That's you anasema he was to go sijuni kwa jina yake ama where. We will also be checking more details towards that, and also knowing what that did Ruto say about that today was he was launching all it. And we'll be checking about the finances and also what is happening all about in our Kenya. And we're still checking out of this. We still see that some people still cries and still wants the Kenya or the government to bring justice for they lose their beloved ones, and they're still in panic mode. So we'll be also checking all this, and this is the place to be, and this is the place where we are agreement to do it. So please tell me you're watching me from on the line and also in the comment section. And if you are joining up the studio, use the link on the comment section. Please climb up as early as possible so that we can have a good time to have a great conversation together and have the talk together and discuss all things on Kenyans political front together, as even you're rolling up or are we also rolling down to bring Kenya to a better place as Kenyans. So I welcome you all. Feel free and feel part and parcel of this, as even we are building up from this moment.
Tonight.
Basi yule mtoto akasema ile siku moja mimi sijaenda kanisani na Yesu Kristo anakuja.
Because kuleta ndege ya chief of defense forces down is not only negligence but criminal negligence.
Nilikuja hapa hadi ya Gor nikamwambia mchague Ruto. Na mimi naomba msamaha.
Na mchezo huu rais ni mchezo ambao utakusaidia wewe rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Ni mchezo ambao unakufundisha jinsi vile kufanya kazi.
Your Excellency, what helped that case was there was a policeman who recorded his statement in English.
Sasa huyu ndiye nilipiga kofi. Juzi ndio amenipigia simu akaniambia
Tonight.
Tonight need fire, see fire. So I want to listen from you as even we are checking this out and as even we are having the discussion and the forum tonight. So tonight, kama see fire, basi ni fire. So I want to welcome you all as even we begin up rolling the ball down to set everything on pace and to set everything accordingly to the perimeters and where it's everything supposed to be. Kama kitu nafai kuwa hapa niambie shagizo hili nafai kuwa hapa. Nakaribisha vijana, wazee, wa mama wote kujeni tuambiane ukweli. Njoni mniambie shagizo hii nafai pango hapa, hii ifai kuwa hapa, hii nafai rudishwa hapa na hii nafai wekwe hivi. The story opening in the float night of the updates of the day is the story of Kupet. Let us watch out this. This is what Kupet is saying all about the money. Money, 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 money. Money is bringing problem. This is what is happening with the Kupet.
Muungano wa walimu wa shule za sekondari Kupet umetangaza kuwa wazazi watalazimika kulipa karo kuanzia muhula ujao. Hali hii imesababishwa na kucheleweshwa mara kwa mara kwa mgao wa fedha zinazohitajika ili kufanikisha shughuli za masomo katika shule za umma nchini. Shule nyingi nchini zimejipata kwenye njia panda kutokana na ukosefu wa fedha za kuendesha shughuli, kiasi cha kukatiza kalenda ya masomo ya muhula huu na kutishia kufunga shule mapema. Mary Mwoki na maelezo zaidi.
Kwa takriban mwaka mmoja sasa, mvutano kati ya Wizara ya Elimu na walimu umeshuhudiwa, huku miungano ya walimu ukikashifu serikali kwa kuchelewa kutuma mgao wa fedha za kuendesha shughuli katika shule za umma. Na sasa pigo jipya linatishia kuweka sekta ya elimu katika njia panda.
Schools must be ready for parents to pay for their children next term, because we cannot have back and forth kind of communication from the ministry. Anybody who is going to target schools for punishment of any nature will be met. We will tell them that they don't have a space to operate.
Kiini cha mzozo huu ni fedha za ufadhili wa masomo ya wanafunzi, kiungo muhimu kinachotolewa na serikali ili kufanikisha shughuli za kila siku za shule. Fedha hizo zimekuwa zikicheleweshwa kupunguzwa. Wasimamizi wa shule sasa wanasema wako katika hali ya kusuasua na kidogo kinachowafikia ni tone katika bahari ya mahitaji yao.
Meaning at one point the schooling system will collapse, given that in the previous years we also have undisbursed funds.
It means that this time they have not sent any capitation to schools, are merely coping with the circumstance, coping.
Haya yanajiri siku moja tu baada ya waziri wa elimu kusema kuwa serikali haitatoa fedha zaidi za mgao hadi muhula ujao.
However, we've not been able to do the actual amount that is required, and we are working with Treasury to ensure that the shortfall that was not released is released, and come third term, the full amount will be released.
It's a structured way by the Ministry of Education to continuously defund the system, and they must come out to speak on this. If they are not responsible, then Treasury is responsible. As Parliament, we actually did work on the budget, and we gave out money for Ministry of Education.
Mfumo wa elimu ya bila malipo ulinuia kuleta usawa wakati wa utawala wa hayati Mwai Kibaki ili kuhakikisha kuwa kila mwanafunzi anapata fursa ya kupata elimu. Lakini sasa azma hiyo inaonekana kudidimia. Mwoki, runinga ya Citizen.
This is what being brought up with Mary Mwoki saying that the government is threatening to close the schools early because of lack of the finances to support their schools. And this was saying that this began lately, and during the back then, the Kibaki has brought up free education so that everyone can be able to learn and everyone can be able to be the same in our society. So now they say that we don't have money, but yet tunagawa milioni. Today we have another photo that I've seen moving around I'll be displaying it shortly so that we can see it. But before we see that photo, or we speak all other things that are being raising up, I want you to tell me, please, just tell me, be honest, and tell me, please, what do you see, or what do you sustain all about this sort of education? Unafeel kuna mahali ama kuna kitu ya iko sawa, ama unaona kuna mahali tunadanganywa, ama kuna mahali mambo kidogo kidogo haipangwi vizuri. I just want to listen from you. I want to listen from everyone, from every Kenyan, so that we can continue speaking together as we checking out these issues. Because kama watoto watakataza watoke shule na ama tunasema watoto wafunge mapema na kufungua, je, kama tunafunga mapema tutachelewa tena kufungua, ama tutafungua mapema ili tuweze kutushanisha haya masuala mawili? Because if we closing earlier, what about opening or closing the school earlier? So what about it opening too? That is it. And that's one of the saddest news today, which I want we have the communication all over it, and so that we can have a good the good information. And for the story of yesterday, that trended story that went to check out yesterday of one lady who was said that he was killing the police station, and this is was known yesterday. So Murkomen spoke something today over it. I want to check it and listen to the Murkomen speech today over the matters, because pia yeye anaweza kuongea, because it's the one, ni waziri wa masuala ya usalama, waziri ambaye anasimamia masuala kadhaa, na sasa unakuwa masuala ya nini, unaona kama sasa vitu kama hizo zikifanyika, yeye ndo anakuwa kwenye moto kuuliza maswali. Wacha tutazame hii video vizuri ndio tujue ni nini Murkomen amefanya, amekiongea leo.
Interior National Administration Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen now says the government will not back down from charging individuals who commit crimes during demonstrations with terrorism offenses. Speaking in Eldoret during the launch of the Jukwaa la Usalama security engagement in Uasin Gishu County, Murkomen faulted the Law Society of Kenya's President Faith Odhiambo for, in his words, siding with criminals at the expense of citizens who lost property worth millions of shillings during the Saba Saba and June 25th anniversary demonstrations. Seth Olale reports from Eldoret.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says the government has sufficient evidence linking all 71 suspects charged with terrorism-related offences to crimes committed during the Saba Saba and June 25th anniversary protests. Murkomen maintained that the state will not relent in prosecuting and seeking convictions for the suspects, despite stiff opposition from the Law Society of Kenya, human rights groups, and the opposition, who have dismissed the charges as excessive and politically motivated. LSK has criticized the move, accusing the government of weaponizing terrorism laws to stifle dissent, and has vowed to challenge the charges in court.
Burning supermarkets, looting people's businesses. All those people are properly defined in the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
In faulting the LSK president for opposing the terrorism charges, CS Murkomen warned LSK against pressurizing or intimidating the judiciary into granting lenient bond terms to suspects accused of violent acts during the protests.
On this one, she is damn wrong. Yeah, she is actually on the wrong side of history. She quickly salvaged her reputation by siding with criminals and terrorists and trying to defend them.
While presiding over the Jukwaa la Usalama Security Assessment Baraza in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, CS Murkomen accused the opposition of double standards in its stance on the application to act against violent protesters.
I totally disagree with those who want to make it lighter. They want to make it look cheap.
As the debate on the implementation of the Prevention of Terrorism Act escalates, the Ministry of Interior maintains that anyone found culpable causing
injury, murder, and destruction of property is liable to charges related to terrorism. Seth Olale, Citizen TV, Eldoret was.
In Eldoret, Murkomen says that way. That is the Murkomen speech in Eldoret, speaking all about it and speaking towards that. This is serious. This is a matter that are getting serious too. So I need to hear from you, please. Muniambie nyi mnaona aje, nyi ama mnasikia vipi? Ama mnaona aje? I want to listen from every Kenyan. I want to hear from every Kenyan. Please just communicate where you are. Please, I want you to say something over this because mkinyamaza mnaacha mambo inaenda mrama. Kenyans, if you get silent, things are going in a wrong direction. But if we speak out, things will be going into right direction. Things will go up to right perspective. But let us not keep quiet, because when we keep quiet, things will go into bad direction, and then yet we will still there be chance they are just watching out, thing missing out, and thing just collapsing, and also our nation collapsing. So I want you, please come on board. Tell me, this is where we're supposed to go. This is what we're supposed to do. This is what's supposed to align. This is what's supposed to answer, and this is what we're supposed to take over. And tonight, I've seen something that also make my heart to be so sad. And that's the thing about the story about the Empowerment Fund. I've said that I'll speak about this Empowerment Fund because it's one of the things that is going on. Wacha tuiongele. Kindiki is going out gishing the money until watu wamejengea pesa ambayo imechorwa Kindiki na inaitwa 61 bob. Niongeze nisiongeze. When we speak about the fund, this is the thing that we're speaking about. Check out this coin. People have decided to make coin saying that 64 shillings. Shilling is still 9. This is called Republic of Kenya Empowerment. So if we are just raising up the sort of empowerment, and yet the money that we're giving up for empowerment, that is not where it's not been, it can't be accountable clearly. So what are we doing with the money of empowerment? I come up across one clip that I'm going to play right now. It's the story of empowerment. Naisi kwani kama tuna empower watu rightly, what's not happening with the money of empowerment? Let us check out this.
Niliona pesa kwa macho. Bwana Ruto, nilikuwekea kura. Si ungetuwekea hata cheki bana, badala ya kuleta kashi. Hii kashi hata niliona pesa kwa kikapu imejaa. Mimi saa hii nimepewa 2,000. Niko na wamama 20,000 nimeshindwa niwapete ni 10. Sababu niko na wamama wachane 20 ya kikaki. Kwenda huku nikabewa 2,000. 2,000 ndio hii, sijui nipatie nani? Niache nani? Na kikundi ni watu 31. Widows and the widowers. Sasa sijui nifanye nini? Hizi nimebewa 2,000 kikundi watu 31. Sasa nitaenda kufanya nini? Watafikia nimechukua pesa yao, watakuja kwangu sijui niseme. Nitawaambia nini? Kwa majina yangu mimi naitwa Roske Mto. Kwanza mimi ni mjane. Nikiwa mjane nilipigiwa simu nikaambiwa kuna pesa ambao imeletwa ya wachane, kuinua wachane ambao ni wachanga sana, wasaidie watoto wao. Nikaambiwa mko na certificate, nikasema tuko na certificate. Hiyo certificate hata tuko na merry-go-round yenye tunajisaidia nayo. Nikaambiwa nikuje na wamama wangu wote. Hao wamama wangu wote ni wakongwe sana, nilikuja nao jana hapa. Mvua ilitunyeshea bwana Kindiki, hata I'm very sure uliniona nikidansi huko na Riverera. Tulidansi hapo. Sasa kazi yangu nilikuja kudansi, nikaacha watoto wangu huko. Nimelala kwa mtaro. Kazi yangu ni kudansi. Pesa niliona pesa kwa macho. Bwana Ruto, nilikuwekea kura. Si ungetuwekea hata cheki bana, badala ya kuleta kashi. Hii kashi hata niliona pesa kwa kikapu imejaa. Mimi saa hii nimepewa 2,000. Niko na wamama 20,000 nimeshindwa niwapete ni 10. Sababu niko na wamama wachane 20 ya kikaki.
what was meant to be joy now is cry. Women crying that mama ameshindwa hata utagawa aje pesa juu amepewa 2,000 na nafaa patia watu 32. This was what supposed, or this what we call the funds. So if the empowerment fund stands that unapewa shilingi 10, what can you empower with 10 bob? Na hata itoshi kununua chumbi ya 15 bob. Please, I want to hear from you, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to listen from you and would like to hear from every Kenyan. Kisii kumewaka. I want to hear from even other people, other women. Kwanza nyinyi mama ambao mlipewa pesa ya nini? Njooni mtuambie. I want to hear from you. Niambie penye huko. Nilipata pesa na nilipata pesa hii na imenisaidia kufanya hii. Na kama hukupata basi. Now if the same thing that has happened in Kisii happen also to other places, please come on the board. Tell me, Shadizo, this is what happened and I didn't get the money. Or I was just called out to go to dance. Like the way this mama is putting out. Asema yeye acha watoto wake kuja kudance. So the woman is worried. They're saying that nikitoka hapa mama watakuja kwangu. Watasema mimi nilikula pesa yao na mimi sio kula pesa yao. Kenyans, come on board. Tell me where we are going. And it will be good so that I can hear from every one of you. And I can hear from everyone. So that we move on together. We don't miss any part. Please, Kenyans, tell me for it. Eh? Please, come on board, Kenyans. Tell me, mnaniambia, mnaona hii Kenya inaenda wapi? Where do you see this Kenya is going? Ama tuko sawa? Let me play the video one more time. You hear the cry of this mama. This mama crying, saying that Ruto hata angetupia check. Then kuleta pesa cash na apewe 2,000 agayo tu 32. Ningesema apewe akona watu 20 na 2,000. Mimi anapewa kila mtu shilingi 10. Ajia amefanya nini? Kenyans, I want to watch this clearly and then come and tell me.
Niliona pesa kwa macho. Aki Bwana Ruto, nilikuwekea kura. Si ungetuwekea hata cheki bana badala ya kuleta cash. Hii cash hata niliona pesa kwa kikapu imejaa. Mimi saa hii nimepewa 2,000. Niko na wamama 20,000 nimeshindwa niwapete ni 10. Sababu niko na wamama wachane 20 ya kikaki. Kwenda huku nikapewa 2,000. 2,000 ndio hii, sijui nipatie nani? Niache nani? Na kikundi ni watu 31. Widows and the widowers. Sasa sijui nifanye nini? Hizi nimepewa 2,000 kikundi watu 31. Sasa nitaenda kufanya nini? Watafikia nimechukua pesa yao, watakuja kwangu sijui niseme. Sijui nitawaambia nini? Kwa majina yangu mimi naitwa Ruto Mto. Kwanza mimi ni mjane. Nikiwa mjane nilipigiwa simu nikaambiwa kuna pesa ambayo imeletwa ya wachane, kuinua wachane ambao ni wachanga sana, wasaidie watoto wao. Nikaambiwa mko na certificate, nikasema tuko na certificate. Hiyo certificate hata tuko na merry-go-round yenye tunajisaidia nayo. Nikaambiwa nikuje na wamama wangu wote. Hao wamama wangu wote ni wakongwe sana, nilikuja nao jana hapa. Mvua ilitunyeshea Bwana Kindiki, hata I'm very sure uliniona nikidansi huko na Riverera. Tulidansi hapo. Sasa kazi yangu nilikuja kudansi, nikaacha watoto wangu huko. Nimelala kwa mtaro. Kazi yangu ni kudansi. Pesa niliona pesa kwa macho. Aki Bwana Ruto, nilikuwekea kura. Si ungetuwekea hata cheki bana badala ya kuleta cash. Hii cash hata niliona pesa kwa kikapu imejaa. Mimi saa hii nimepewa 2,000. Niko na wamama 20,000 nimeshindwa niwapete ni 10. Sababu niko na wamama wachane 20 ya kikaki.
Akigaki, that woman crying. Watu is trying to be helpful, now it's time to cry. Please niambieni watu ambao mmepata hii pesa, hii ndio wanasema ndio pesa ambayo mnapewa. So kama mpate pesa, please come on board, tell us what about it. I missed out the story, like the way people are moving to Shakahola and also getting out for other people who are dead. Please, I want to know from you. I want to hear from you. Kama mpata hii pesa, come on board, tell me nimepata hii pesa. Na kama hujapata, kuja niambie shadizo, mimi sijapata hii pesa na tuliambiwa tumepewa pesa. Because this shows out of everything everything that is going on. I see Daniel is joining me on this studio. Please come on board. Let us have the conversation. Let us have the talk. Let us have it all. Because this is the story, like the way the story happened in Shakahola. Is this turning like the story that happened in Shakahola? Okay, we are still seeing the story of Shakahola still coming back. The story of Shakahola is still rising back again. Ikiwa mnaweza pia mama 2,000 pesa ya empowerment, agawie watu 20, angalie watu 31. How can 10 bob empower somebody? Na iwezi nunua hata chumbi ya 15 bob. I want to hear from you Kenyans. I want to listen from you. I want to hear from every Kenyan. I want to hear from you. But before I bring in Daniel, let us check out this. This also happens in Kenya today, one night.
Dozens who have died in what appears to be a fresh wave of the Shakahola massacre. A close relative who spoke to the children's parents and the leaders suspected to be behind the second round of killing says the parents themselves confirmed the deaths. Human rights activists now claim more than 40 people could have been killed and secretly buried in Kwabinzaro since March this year. Brenda Wanga has that report.
They survived the first Shakahola massacre, but this time they weren't so lucky. Flora, aged 15, Mary, 14, Christine, 10, Shadrach, 6, Esther, 4, and Tony, 1-year-old, are all feared dead, their bodies believed to have been buried in a settlement within Kwabinzaro village inside Chakama Ranch. The 6 were part of a family of 8 that had initially been rescued from Shakahola in 2023 and relocated to Siaya, where they had been staying for the last 2 years. But in March this year, Jairus, the head of the family, lied to his extended family that he had been offered employment in Bondo. Alongside his entire nuclear family, instead, he boarded a bus with his wife and children, heading back to Kilifi to rejoin the controversial religious sect led by Paul Mackenzie. The parents, Jairus and Lillian Atieno, are amongst the 4 people that were rescued and later arrested from the forest on Saturday. Now, a close relative who spoke to Citizen TV on condition of anonymity says he managed to talk to the couple who are currently in police custody. What they told him is chilling.
Kwa kusema ukweli watoto wamekufa kwa sababu alinikonfirmia yeye mwenyewe na mdomo yake. Nilipomuuliza, nilipompata hapo kwa police station, nilipewa nafasi ya kuongea naye, nikamuuliza watoto wako wapi. Na aliniambia watoto wamekufa wote na wamezikwa.
Jairus also revealed to the relative that despite Paul Mackenzie being behind bars and on trial, his cult remains active, luring followers to their deaths right under the noses of law enforcement.
Mackenzie yuko gerezani na anaoperate nje. Ana wafuasi wake huko nje kwa sababu tukiwa hapo na DCI hapo ofisini niliweza kumuuliza ukitaka kufa ama ukitaka kufunga unafanya nini? Anasema ya kwamba wakati umepangiwa msituni, wakati unaelekea kufa, saa ile unaanza kufunga, Mackenzie mwenyewe ndio lazima akuombee kwanza. Na anakuombea kupitia kwa simu ambayo anapiga akiwa gerezani.
Serikali itafute njia ya kudhibiti utumizi wa simu, haswa kwa wale ambao walikuwa wameshtakiwa na ile Shakahola 1, kwa sababu tumepata habari hata kupitia familia hii kwamba Mackenzie na wale ambao walikuwa nao accomplices wake bado wanaendelea kueneza injili hii ya watu kufunga na kufa kupitia simu.
Human rights activists say the number of those who've already died in this phase of the massacre is worrying.
Kulingana na victims family ambao wamezungumza siku ya leo, ni kuwa tunatarajia tupate zaidi ya 47 bodies katika hii ambayo tunaiita Shakahola tu.
Indeed, those who live near the scene of crime say that the estimate is not far off the mark.
Tueleza hata vile ambavyo walikuwa wanachimba makaburi, nasema wanatumia upanga tu, chimba tu shimo tu kidogo, ili mradi tu mwili huo unaweza kuzibwa, wewe haonekani huko juu. Na baada ya kuzikwa anapanda konge hapo juu, alama ya kwamba kesho tena labda kama mkuja na mtu mwingine asiwezi kuchimba hapo tena.
The government is in the process of getting warrants to search the area with the aim of establishing the true magnitude of this act it has described as religious radicalization. 11 people have so far been arrested over the cult-like activities, and they're being held in remand until the 22nd of August when they will be heard in court. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
Learning institution.
This is what is happening, and this is what is going on and on. Huh? I want to hear from you, and I want to listen from everyone. Please come on board, tell me, let me talk to me, tell me, Shadis. I want to hear from every Kenyan and all of you, of people surrounding us. Please join up the show, please subscribe the show, and tell me, wewe unaona vipi, ama unasikia nini? Mimi kwanza kimenisikitisha kwamba this is the second wave of Shakahola. We thought about when we were speaking about the Shakahola is ending up. Kenya, mnaongea vitu zikienda mbele na zikirudi nyuma. Women crying this side, the story of Shakahola bouncing back again. This is so serious. Let me listen to Daniel. Daniel, how are you?
Hello.
Hello, how are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm fine. Good morning, my friends.
I'm fine too. I want to hear from you. What is your comment about that?
Okay. How are you? Situation, country Kenya. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you, but although you are getting lost a little bit, but I feel we can hear you. Go on now.
Oh yes.
You can just mute your camera. You remain with the audio so that you can flow. Just.
Oh yes. High class.
Great. Then let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now process missing. My friends. Women from Africa. I'm eating me to Kenya. I speak Pan Africa. But my friends now is in Bengue. Me process and meeting here. I thank you. Country Kenya, Sabah, all political, human rights mechanism, United Nations, and starting. I think process mechanism, human rights, starting now. Thank you, my friends. Hello?
Yes, Daniel.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I've heard you, and I want to hear from every other person too. I want to from even other Kenyans. Please, on the comment section, please let us continue drop our in the comment section, and let us continue sharing our views, and let us continue sharing our also opinions too. We are watching a lot of us, and please invite somebody to watch also. If you ever invite somebody, be part of the process of this, so that you can bring Kenya to alignment. Because if such a like this can happen, if such a like a woman can be crying saying that I was given the money and yet I didn't see the money. Niliona pesa kwa kikapu. The woman is saying that for the empowerment. So if you are saying you're giving not the empowerment, and then the woman is saying niliona pesa kwa kikapu, so what should we do?
Oh,
What am I supposed to do?
thank you.
Daniel,
Hello?
yeah? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? What that woman supposed to do? Please, Kenyans, come on board. Tell me. Now, ikiwa tunapenda pesa empowerment, and yet still, even despite giving the money of empowerment, we still see things are not going on the way they're supposed to be going on. Kiaje, the schools, they are threatening to close early or asking the parent to pay the school fees by themselves because they don't have the power to pay the school fees anymore. And yet we have the money to give up for empowerment. Yet the empowerment money that's given out, hey, please, Kenyans, raise up. Let us stand still. Let us come on board. Let us stay Shadizo. So I tell you, my friend, I want to see you on board, Kenyans. Please, hebu tujitokeze, kujeni, mtuambie mnaona kwamba hii Kenya tunaipeleka wapi? Are we taking Kenya to the right place, or are we taking Kenya to the bad place? Are we taking Kenya to the place that it's supposed to be, or are we just taking Kenya to the place that we feel the Kenya should be going? Tafadhali, naomba mniambie. Naomba mkuje mnisaidia. I ask you please, come help this Mkenya. Come help this Mkenya tuweze kujua kwamba tunaenda wapi. Let us know where the direction of our country, the direction of our nation is taking to, because this is serious. If the school can be closing, after school closing, next itakuwa ni nini? Next itakuwa ni, and yet we are giving out the money for empowerment. Why can't we empower about the schools, make sure the schools, the hospitals, they have medication, they have also what they require. That's when we can empower this mama. This mama, one of the things that makes these mamas goes out to look for the money is, one of them is to educate their kids. So if you can give the kids education, the mama have already empowered the mama by reducing the budget of that women. If you can stand there, help this mama from settling out some few bills. Now, bringing the money, you have seen the mama, they have come up in the groups. So the mama, one mama saying we have certificate, we have the group of Jama, we had like 20 people. The other one that said we have 32 people. And yet, between that 2 people and 20 people, you give them 2K. So how do you expect this woman was supposed to empower the 2 women with 2,000? Mama anasema hajui hata apea nani awache nani. Mwingine anasema atapea tu kila mtu 10. This is getting out of hand. Please, Kenyans, I want to hear from you. I want to listen from you. I want to hear from you, and I want to hear from everyone. Because if we are saying we are doing it like this, hey, let you tell me.
Oh.
But first of all,
okay,
yes,
my friend,
yes,
friends, I out. Thank you. I batch you now. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Kenyans, I want you to tell me, what is the expectation that we are expecting? What are we just okay? Kujeni tu mniambie. Mnasema Shadizo wewe ni mbaya. Ama mnasema Shadizo kuna kitu hauelewi. I want to understand. And I want to understand it better. Sitaki tu kuelewa tu juu ni kuelewa. I want to understand it better. So please come help me. Nisaidie. Nisaidie Mkenya. Surely. Okay, let us check up around them in the business of our Kenyans and the money transaction in our nation.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching JKL. Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro has cautioned that the 44 billion Kenya shillings Lindsay Finko bond meant to fund the construction of Talanta Sports Stadium is a new secret way of burdening Kenyans with expensive debt. Nyoro, who is also the former Budget and Appropriations Committee chairperson, says Kenyans will end up paying up to 100 billion Kenya shillings for the loan. Stephen Leto has that report.
The construction of the 60,000 capacity Talanta Sports Complex is now at the center of a funding controversy, with the latest listings of a bond by Lindsay Finko. The securitization fundraising model has been dropped in to finance the construction of the stadium that will host African Cup of Nations Championship in 2027. Former Budget Chair Ndindi Nyoro says President William Ruto is plunging the country into deeper debt. Nyoro says the securitization model that the government has embarked on is more costly.
Now the government is coming up with these kind of facilities so that we do not seem like our debt is growing, whereas we are basically having another secret book of debt. One secret book was fuel levy. The second secret book, of course, is now this one for Talanta.
The Kiharu lawmaker says the 44.7 billion shillings bond will cost the taxpayer hundreds of billions of shillings in future. The bond has been pegged on expected revenues from the Talanta Stadium in the hope it becomes an income-generating project once complete.
The maturity of the bond in the next 15 years, Kenya will have paid interest rates of 100 billion for a loan of 44.8 billion Kenya shillings. And I'm here wondering, if that cannot make us agree as Kenyans, then what would? Now you are making a generation which is to come for the next 15 years to be born with a price tag of a loan of a money they actually don't know where it went.
President Ruto told the gathering at NSC that the new venture joins the pioneering innovations such as the government-to-government G2G fuel supply program and the fuel levy-backed securitization that will see the government raise 175 billion shillings to finance stall road projects.
And I can tell you without breaking of an eye that these kind of mechanisms you see, the experienced officers in the National Treasury do not even support it.
The government exuding confidence that its latest debt instruments through the NSC will reinforce the country's ability to finance critical infrastructure from domestic capital and reduce dependency on external borrowing. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
Now hear this. Time for business. Kenya's capital markets have recorded a milestone with the listing of 44.9 billion shillings infrastructure-backed security at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The transaction led by Lindsay Finko is being hailed as a major leap in mobilizing private capital for public infrastructure projects. The funds will go towards the construction of the Talanta Sports City Stadium, which is set to be completed in time for the Africa Cup of Nations Championships in 2027, co-hosted by Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Here's Jasmine Wamboi with the details of that story.
Is this trading that's going on at the moment?
Lindsay Finco has successfully listed the Lindsay 003 infrastructure asset-backed security, one of the largest deals of its kind in Kenya's history. This demonstrating a growing appetite for sophisticated financial instruments in the local market.
Now, this is going to be trading for some time because it's not been done in East Africa. The last time this was done, Your Excellency, was the Gauteng train project in South Africa. So as a country, we are very, very proud that we've been able to pull this together.
The listing, marked by a ceremonial bell ringing at the NSE, signals growing investor confidence in structured finance as a tool for infrastructure development.
And Your Excellency, I want to announce also that we have had an equity listing last week. We have an equity listing again tomorrow, and the market has traded the highest value of bonds in recent history.
The strong recovery of the NSC, with market capitalization now standing at 2.5 trillion, reflects the soundness and consistency of our economic policies. Some of the choices we have made have not been easy, and at times, not popular. But they have been necessary. They have been strategic. and forward-looking. These decisions have helped us stabilize the economy, restore investor confidence, and lay a firm foundation for growth into the future.
The security pools future cash flows from infrastructure assets and repackages them into tradable instruments, allowing institutional and retail investors to participate in long-term infrastructure financing. This approach also helps reduce reliance on traditional public funding at a time when government is cash-strapped.
Your Excellency, the government which you lead is increasingly turning to innovative financing mechanisms to fund large-scale infrastructure and public service projects. Some of the structures that we have earmarked for the deployment of private sector participation in public financing include asset-backed financing, otherwise known as securitization of public assets. 2 is privatization, and 3 is public-private partnerships, among others.
Market players see the listing as a sign of maturity in Kenya's financial markets.
Our goal is clear: to onboard 9 million active retail investors by the year 2029 through strategic interventions that address market access, financial literacy, and generally improving the overall economy.
Jasmine Wamboi, Citizen TV.
Electric mobility company Basigo has launched a pilot program.
What? Mambo ni mengi, masaa ndio machache. Kenya. Utanauliza hii pesa ya empowerment inapeana wapi? Kindiki sasa anapeana. Let me read the comment section a little bit as we continue. Let me begin with the YouTube section. Tuanzie na YouTube. What were YouTube? Kuna Esther saying good evening, Bernard, and all of you. I think Bernard has gotten the greetings. Bernard ujajibu hii salam. Bernard will come to say good evening. He'll come to respond to that. Tukondani, thank you. I see Tun Mahmoud saying like, hi Shadizo and everyone, thank you. Hi too. One-on-one. Tun, kuna swali hapo. Umepata hii pesa ya nini? Tun anasema wapi huko? Hii pesa ya nini napeanwa ni 10. Tun, kama hujapata, hujaiona? Let me show you the money. This is the money tunatafuta. Hii ndio pesa mnapewa. Hoja na pesa ya ni empowerment. Hii ndio pesa ya empowerment. This is the money for empowerment. So, hey. Ujapata pesa ya empowerment. Please, I want to welcome you all. I want to welcome you. Feel part and parcel of this as we have the conversation. Please, niambie. Kama wewe umepata hii pesa ya empowerment. Njoo niambie. As even we are taking it higher. We are taking it higher. We are taking it higher. Kindiki amepewa pesa ya empowerment. Anatembea akizungusha akigawa. But yet people are saying, mimi hata sijaona hiyo pesa. Mwingine anasema, mama anasema niliona pesa ikitolewa, lakini mbona sina pesa. This is serious. But this is one of the videos that has made my heart to feel so pain today. Okay, I'm sorry, but allow me to play this video for the last time.
Niliona pesa kwa macho. Bwana Ruto, nilikuwekea kura. Si ungetuwekea hata cheki bana, badala ya kuleta kashi. Hii kashi hata niliona pesa kwa kikapu imejaa. Mimi saa hii nimepewa 2,000. Niko na wamama 20,000 nimeshindwa niwapete ni 10. Sababu niko na wamama wachane 20 ya kikaki. Kwenda huku nikabewa 2,000. 2,000 ndio hii, sijui nipatie nani? Niache nani? Na kikundi ni watu 31. Widows and the widowers. Sasa sijui nifanye nini. Hizi nimebewa 2,000 kikundi watu 31. Sasa nitaenda kufanya nini? Watafikia nimechukua pesa yao, watakuja kwangu sijui niseme. Nitawaambia nini? Kwa majina yangu mimi naitwa Ruto Mto. Kwanza mimi ni mjane. Nikiwa mjane nilipigiwa simu nikaambiwa kuna pesa ambayo imeletwa ya wachane, kuinua wachane ambao ni wachanga sana, wasaidie watoto wao. Nikaambiwa mko na certificate, nikasema tuko na certificate. Hiyo certificate hata tuko na merry-go-round yenye tunajisaidia nayo. Nikaambiwa nikuje na wamama wangu wote. Hao wamama wangu wote ni wakongwe sana, nilikuja nao jana hapa. Mvua ilitunyeshea bwana Kindiki, hata I'm very sure uliniona nikidansi huko na Riverera. Tulidansi hapo. Sasa kazi yangu nilikuja kudansi, nikaacha watoto wangu huko. Nimelala kwa mtaro. Kazi yangu ni kudansi. Pesa niliona pesa kwa macho. Aki bwana Ruto, nilikuwekea kura. Si ungetuwekea hata cheki bana badala ya kuleta kashi. Hii kashi hata niliona pesa kwa kikapu imejaa. Mimi saa hii nimepewa 2,000. Niko na wamama 20,000 nimeshindwa niwape 10 sababu niko na wamama wachane 20 ya kikaki.
Until mama says gaki. Hey, so jua ni kubaya. When you mkisia mbaka kikisi kimekuja. All of a sudden. Na alikuwa anaongea Kiswahili vizuri. Please Kenyans, come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. Come and speak to me as you when I'm upgrading the game. Kenyans, mimi hata sijui niseme nini. I don't know what to say. Wacha tu tupate kivumbi cha siasa. Haya, nasikia baba akisema haya. Hey, leo kwa tufungile kivumbi cha sasa. Tunaanza na sehemu za mlima. Na mtu ambaye tufungulia kivumbi cha sasa leo ni other than the man that's funny yesterday. He was impeached. What do you want again? And that man was impeached. Mzumbulia nini Rigiji? So leo kivumbi cha sasa kutuanzishia ni Rigiji. With talks. Rigiji aliongea leo. Fanya Ruto akakuwa na wasiwasi. Akisema kama Ruto is confused. Sawa. Sasa swali linauliza, is Ruto confused? Ama ni Rigiji tu? Ama ni Rigiji tu? Wacha Rigiji la tuanzishe kivumbi cha siasa. Kisonga mbele mdogo.
Across the Atlantic, and former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says President William Ruto does not understand his presidential assignment nor comprehend the challenges facing the country. Gachagua says the head of state has been giving conflicting explanations on the nation's problems, appearing unsettled and failing to offer concrete remedial measures. Melita Oletenges has that report.
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who is on a tour of America, accused the president of confusion and deflecting rather than addressing concerns raised by the youth. His remarks came days after President William Ruto told parents of Gen Z that the police are not responsible for raising their children.
He's a very confused person, extremely confused. When the Gen Z's protest started in 2024, he stayed after another 4 weeks, he said it's for the foundation. Do you remember? The other day, he said it's a church. He said the church, they are the ones who are inciting people, church leaders, nini. He went back again, he said it's the opposition. This Sunday, he said it's the parents. Yeah? He said it's poor parenting. William Ruto, please, can you make up your mind? What ails your country?
as leaders allied to the government back home continue to label recent Gen Z demonstrations as politically instigated by Gachagua and his cronies. Gachagua says the leaders are trying to run from the real issues.
Instead of listening to the Gen Zs, the issues they are raising, abductions, extrajudicial killings, corruption, misappropriation of public resources, President says, no. These people have been incited by Rigiji and Uhuru. You know, the president does not know the problem in Kenya. He has given 7 reasons so far.
Gachagua dismisses accusations of political incitement leveled against him and opposition leaders as a tactic to delegitimize the Gen Z protests, pointing to the government's failure to address the core issues.
And it's simply because he doesn't want to accept that he has lost it and there is a problem, and address the problem instead of saying the boys and girls are being incited. If he was honest to himself and listened to the problems the young people are raising on behalf of the country, we will not be where we are.
Meanwhile, Dorcas Rigathi, the former deputy president's spouse, has told off leaders making demeaning remarks about her.
When he gives me to speak, he's not giving me to speak because I don't know, I sit. How can you sit on a man like this? This is a man who is causing a whole nation not to sleep.
The former deputy president was in Draycott, Massachusetts on Tuesday as he continues with his Meet the Diaspora community in America. Melita Oletenges.
A man who causes the whole nation to not sleep. How can I sit on such a big man? That's the story of Dorcas complaining, say that mnasema kijana nipea niongeje mimi nimemkalia kama chapati. Anasema mtu ambaye anafanya nchi yote inatetemeka, unawezaje mkalia kama unawezaje mkalia kama chapati? That's how it's being said in layman's language. But what do you think about that? Is it rigid to harsh? Hey, please come on board. Come and tell me. Come talk to me. Come and share this with me. Because what? Tukiachana na rigiji. Pesa empowerment imeleta shida. Let's check out. Na rais aliamua kuzungumza pia na yeye leo. Vijana sema ikutoke. So leo walimwambia aseme mtoke. Today was sema ikutoke. Check out this.
In a spirited defense of his tenure, President William Ruto has today described himself as an agent of destiny and change, telling of his critics pushing the one-term agenda. The president said he should be judged at the end of his term, saying his opponents have so far not offered no clear alternative plan. Speaking today in Nairobi County, the head of state said just like his predecessors, he will go when his time comes. Emmanuel Toh has that report.
The bell-ringing ceremony to commemorate the listing of the asset-backed security at the Nairobi Securities Exchange set the stage for the head of state to launch strong defense of his tenure as president, a tenure which has lately come under some withering attacks from his critics.
I hear my brothers and sisters say, let Ruto go, then we will figure out. To me, that sounds like the wash conmanship. One term, Kasongo, Ruto must go, is not enough. Just like those who were there before me. My time will come, and I will go.
Pushing back on the consistent one-term calls from the opposition, President Ruto touted his record, saying his opponents had none.
What are your reasons for this Ruto must go? Because the more I listen, the more it is sloganeering. It's not about a plan, not about an alternative plan. If you seriously have a plan, that does better on creating jobs than I have, that does better on education than I have. You should be bold enough to tell us.
President Ruto then picked out one of his critics, the retired Chief Justice David Maraga, who is also eyeing his seat in the 2027 presidential race.
Now I listened to him say Kenya is a failed state. Now I ask myself, so for 40 years, you have been working in a failed state? So you want to be president of a failed state?
The head of state, who has come under intense pressure from the opposition, said he should be judged fairly and at the end of his term.
The critics may say I am wrong. The cynics may say I am lying. And the naysayers may even say I am mad. But what if they are wrong? And they are. What if I am an agent of destiny for the transformation of our nation, whose promise has been delayed for far too long?
President Ruto also responded to critics who accused him of failing to deliver on his electoral promises.
Some have accused my administration of over-promising or taking on too many challenges at once. This was deliberate to adjust the bar upwards. We have made peace with mediocrity for far too long.
Manuel Toa, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Wow. Kenya, where are we going? Where are we heading to? Please just tell me, come, let me to understand where are we going and where are we heading to. Nasikia vijana kusema ni kumoto mazee. Kweli hii ndio kumoto. Hii ndio kumoto. This one is the hottest one. While the money is being spent this side, and on this spent this side, na mambo ingine inaendelea tu. I want to hear from you. I want to listen from everyone. I want to listen from every Kenyan as we will continue having a conversation tonight, because tonight is a night whereby we will align everything so that we can go accordingly and according to the purpose. Listening to everyone is my duty. Listening to every Kenyans, because maoni yenu ndio inajenga kila kitu, is my duty. And 2027 states play. Mina feel ni hii states play. Nani anaangukia, nani anachukua? As even we are continuing up. Okay, let us join up for the next little bit talk as even we are more get up to another higher level as we still just having the conversation. Let us take.
Thanks for your company.
Thank you for having me.
Sheila Olang is development economist and also the young voice on the bench. Lovely having you here.
Thanks for having me, Ayub.
And Javas Bigambo commentates on governance and politics, joins us this evening on the bench.
Thank you so much. Good evening. How are you?
And many thanks for your time.
Great.
And also we are joined by Wakili Willis Otieno on the bench this evening. Thanks for your time, Advocate.
Thank you very much.
A lot to go through. Let's begin, Prof, with what the head of state today said, and seems to be the consistent line, appears to be now his common denominator. You want me to go where? Seems legitimate question on his part, but ideally, does it satisfy the calls that are questioning the governance style of his administration?
So I think, yes, there is a clarion call that says Ruto must go. It represents certain aspirations. But where it is coming from a place where people are demanding accountability, where people are demanding that justice be done, where people are demanding that corruption be dealt with. That's where it is coming from. If you asked any of the young protesters who go to the streets regularly if they want to replace the president, they will tell you absolutely not. I am not interested in replacing the president. I am interested in changing the governance system.
Okay.
That the leaders in place be responsive to the people, be accountable to the people, and follow the dictates of the constitution as it is written. As we have seen over and over again, these are people who have internalized the Constitution. These are people who believe in the promise of the Constitution, and they expect that their leaders will live by the dictates of that document. And what they see out there, not only in the president, but in the entire political class, is that these are people who are struggling very hard to live in a way that is against what the Constitution provides for. And they're getting confused. And in that confusion, they're going to the streets and exercising their constitutional right to say, I have a right to protest. And then they're being told, no, you don't. And they're being shot and they're being hit with tear gas and so on. And they're getting very, very confused. I think if you speak to the young people today, they get very confused. But the Constitution says I can do this. Yeah. And then you're telling me I can't do it. And so that is clarion call from. I would necessarily literally, when you see a young person on the street saying Ruto must go, but this young person is saying this system of governance, which I call a colonial canoism, if you like, must go. That mentality that power resides elsewhere other than in the people must go. That mentality that impunity reigns supreme must go. That is what I hear if you speak to the young people, if you speak to the people who are protesting. This is what I hear them say, that there's a system of governance that is promised by the Constitution, and that is what they're looking to see. Now, as to if the leaders in place leave one way or another, there are constitutional mechanisms for filling vacant offices in all offices of state, whether it be the presidency, deputy presidency, parliament, ministers, and so on. There are constitutional methods of replacing people when those offices fall vacant. And we can enumerate those, and they're listed out in the Constitution.
And Sheila, being one of the voices on the streets during Saba Saba and also the commemorative demonstrations to mark 1 year since events of June 25th last year, are the young people concerned in any way about given what the head of state said and what Gachagua continues to say, is that any of your business, or the call for good governance remains consistent?
Ayub, I think, like you said, as somebody who went out to the streets last year, when I see where we have kind of progressed to a year later, the one phrase I would use to describe where we are today is just tone deafness. I don't think they're getting it. There's two sides speaking, but they're not speaking to each other. I think the leadership is not speaking to us, and we are not being, I don't know if we're not speaking to them, but there's a certain tone deafness that is going on. My positioning is very simple. Somebody once said, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. So all of this transatlantic back and forth, who becomes president, who does not become president, irrelevant. Even if we put you today as the president, if you do not fix the issues that we are raising as young people, we are all wasting time. What this boils down to for me is quite simple. When we went out last year, I was very happy and I was very confident to go out. Like I said before, I'd never been part of a protest before, because I'd never risk my life for a political party or otherwise. But this time I did it because it was issue-based. It was because we were trying to attack a system. It was because we were giving everybody who had been given a mandate or leadership an opportunity to change course. And if you remember, leading up to the 25th, 25th was more of the climax of it. On the initial days when we went in, when we were saying, it's leaderless, it's tribeless, it's partyless, it was meant to be a kind of a golden opportunity for the leadership to say, okay, now that you're not threatening my position or my future as the president, as the MP, as the governor, you're giving me an opportunity to correct course. But I think what's going on is there's just a certain entitlement, which as young people, we are trying to retaliate and say, usitubebe ufala, like we are reading the Constitution, we are understanding what our rights are, and if you continue at this rate, then we will not accept it. So we are at a point where the political class has now uprooted itself, gone into one room, and they're having a conversation, and then they've again left us, 70% of the population, outside the room. So they're busy having the cross-Atlantic, whatever conversations they're having, and they're not sticking to the issues. The issues are still the same. We look at the inflation rate today versus last year, we're still at the same. We're looking at unemployment. We're looking at the drivers of the economy. They're still the same, and we're still not investing in them. So if we do not stick to the issues, and if we do not address the same issues that we had last year, then I don't think this is going to end. Okay. Yeah.
And talking of the talks, there's a proposal by the former Prime Minister. We'll expound more on that, on the conclave that he has proposed during the Sabasaba commemorative protest. Will, is coming to you. Looking at what's happening within the political gallery, it's no doubt that no one has the moral high ground, is it, when it comes to the moral authority?
You know, one thing that we must all appreciate is that that's a legacy politicians talk. It's not about the people. And we've been there, done that. And we have on record several documents that have been developed and designed when people go out to agitate. Look at their full implementation. In fact, yesterday on this very TV station, the crocodile came out and told us the alligator is sick. That is Edwin Sifuna. There's a signatory to the 10-point agenda. A signatory came out and told us what we signed that we're going to do is not happening. Then on the same breath, we are still proposing that you have a conclave. I mean, if that which was signed last year, is not being implemented.
This year, early this year.
It was early this year. Is not being implemented. If anything, we now have more deaths this year than we had last year. What conclave, what conversation are you having with the people? You're not. So it means that is an elite conversation, politicians sitting down to discuss their issues. But what we have in this country, what we have is an agitation by the people that for the first time, we are going to break the system. This colonial old system that has superintended itself over us from the time of the Mzungu colonialist to present day. That system is what is being rejected. And if you ask about, for example, the trust between Gachagua and Ruto, what's the difference? Again, legacy politicians throwing barbs at each other. Kenyans don't care about what Rigathi Gachagua says or what William Ruto says to Rigathi Gachagua. Kenyans care about joblessness, the high cost of living, the escalating cost of healthcare system, the failed university funding model. So those are the things that Kenyans want to discuss. And the system is trying to perpetuate itself by trying to control the political narrative to be about them. The children of the system want to be the ones to compete and to occupy these positions. They don't want the Kenyans to have a genuine conversation that will give them a leader.
But Willis, Kenya is not a monarchy, it's a democracy.
It's not a monarchy, but what they are doing, they are trying to control the political narrative. You suppress the issue that Kenyans agitated about and try to force, for example, a Gachagua or a Matiang'i or a Kalonzo to be the face of that which Kenyan people are agitating for, and then provide a competition between one side and the other. But they're all the same. As it is, and we've said this before, look at Gachagua, look at Kalonzo, look at Martha. Those were all deputies at one time. Look at Raila, look at Ruto. Those were running for president. Now the deputies on one side and the presidents on one side. The deputies have been joined by a former prime cabinet secretary, I mean, this de facto prime minister, so to speak. And you're telling me, out of that competition, you are going to have a new Kenya, a rebirth. No, you can only have a rebirth when you decide, legacy politicians, keep to your barbs. But let's have a political competition that is about what the people of Kenya are agitating about.
Okay. Java's coming to you. When you hear the president say that, not the first time, certainly questioning, then how should I go? It's a democracy. If the people refresh his mandate, well and good. If they don't, then he goes home packing. Regardless, though, is he being distracted and kept off the lane, given that his responses have largely meant to respond in saying, regard this, but amongst the many?
You know, Ayub, you asked this question and we're having this discussion this night at a time when all of us are having existential concerns about our democracy, about governance. And then Martin Luther King Jr. asked, where do we go from here? Now, President William Ruto has asked that question. How do you want me to go? Because the people said, or people were chanting, Ruto must go. Now, this question is not just a simple one. It is about the integral issues about the social contract that he has with the people. It is about the desire of the people to have a government to be more accountable, to deliver on its mandate. And the other thing is that maybe the president is trying to invite the people on the other side to a conversation with him when he's asking the question, how do you want me to go? And the question then would be, to go where? Because when he was campaigning, he said he's going to State House to work for the people. Mm-hmm. Now, the people, of course, have been about this. For me, the greatest challenge that I have with all these happenings is how we are breeding a culture of intolerance. Political intolerance, which itself is an existential threat to our democracy. Yes, you've asked Willis the question to do with the dialogue that has been mentioned in the conclave by Honorable Raila Odinga. And we know that democracy by its nature is a child of dialogue. But for the longest time, the kind of dialogues that have been there have been led by politicians, benefited politicians, and not the people. If at all, it's a question of having that, like right now we are having a conversation here, a dialogue. Well, we've had the opposition saying, or the regardless saying they don't want any kind of dialogue, but they are dialoguing in various spaces. So the question is this: we are creating spaces or opportunities that are intolerant on some issues as we tolerate other issues that favor certain cliques or groups. For me, I think, given what happened last year, 2024, given what has happened this year, the commemoration of June 25th, and then the Saba Saba, it is time for us to appreciate that the kingdom of sobriety has not been actually fully conquered. Mm-hmm. We need to come together as a people, as a nation, ask ourselves critical questions with critical answers. We have got the president who is the head of state and government. He cannot run away and is not running away from responsibilities. He needs to respond to that. Now, as the president asked that question, is it possible that he wants to go before or outside the brackets of the framework that has been provided for by the Constitution as an election cycle? I doubt. And if at all we believe in the rule of law, I had Willis' relative yesterday speak here, Honorable Safuna, that there is the issue that was primary, the removal of President William Ruto. But you know, integral to the Constitution of Kenya and our constitutional democracy is the place of the rule of law. In this conversation that President William Ruto is inviting the country to respond, how do you want me to go? Where is the place of the rule of law? In safeguarding our democracy, in the government delivering? And for me, if the people are concerned about service delivery, I've been asking myself, Ayub, executive in the Constitution is at two levels. The national level headed by the president, the county level headed by the governors. The people are concerned about service delivery at all levels, and the one service delivered by the president and the national government and the county governments. Trouble is that Ayub, we are so hypocritical as a people, driven by separatist and sectarian politics, that we are likely to fall in the danger of missing the bigger picture.
Okay. And talking about the bigger picture, Prof, coming to you, then how does the president included here and the former prime minister move away and whitewash the wholesale indictment on their part by the public? The president had quick fix for the June 25th protest last year. He made mega pledges, compensation of the families, lessening his to the cabinet level numbers. The compensation never happened as was structured. Austerity, it was just on paper. And the other question, which was on the other important component, deficit. How can the political class then come out of the space in which they are pigeonholed in the eyes of the public?
I think what I hear from the what I hear from what the people are saying is that people have lost faith. People do not trust that the politicians will do the right thing. This is what I'm hearing. And the politicians themselves are not doing their class any favors, because many times they're not fulfilling the promises that they have made to the people. And, you know, the people who are the voters today are people who want to believe in your promises. There are people who want to trust that when you say, I'll do this in 6 months, that you will actually do it in 6 months. And when you don't do it in 6 months, they do not brook any excuses. So I think the political class, to help themselves, if you like, they need to realize they're dealing with a new generation of voters, a new generation of Kenyans. And these are not people whom you will tell things and then there's a long news cycle that takes weeks before they can figure out what you said several weeks ago and that it hasn't happened. Today, it's instant. You say things to this circulating all over the world and you make promises, and there are people who keep track of those promises. So we just realize the old software of governance needs to be upgraded to new software based on, firstly, the new constitution, but also the new generation of an increasing majority of voters who are young, who are connected, and who are digital and not instant consumers of the news that is happening right now. So if you realize that this environment has changed, it is not the old folk that used to come for political rallies and you tell them things and they say, you know, I've seen everything and whatever you're telling me is not new, and they would go away knowing maybe you won't do it, but they don't care. This is a new generation that expects you to do what you say that you'll do.
And Sheila, looking at what the former deputy president has been saying during his US tour, ideally every day on the news bulletins, the president responding to him, we have talked about that. But is it also on the flip end an exposure of how we have exported our bad mannerism to the American continent, which was largely a reflection of how the government lieutenants never learned from what they exported as bad manners to Addis Ababa, the diplomatic capital of the continent, in campaigning for Odinga, yet they only had one vote under the president's name?
I think America is going through its own fair share of political issues. So I keep telling people all the time, I think maybe the previous political class or generations, maybe there were times when I know my parents used to say everyone was looking forward to traveling abroad, and that's how you saved yourself. Yeah, it's out there. We have to fix home. I think if for us, because we have so much pride, we are a generation that is so much more African, and we love Kenya. And sometimes we are scorned because they're saying, but if you really love Kenya, then you would really, you know, just be quiet because Kenya needs to stay stable. And I always tell them, the more you continue in this route, you are the one that you have a big chunk. Let's have some basic numbers, right? You voted for President Ruto. You had another maybe 7 million voted for Raila. You had about 8 million go up to the ballot, and they never voted. Here on my own, trying to say I want to fix the issues. Maybe this is them. My point is that the lights distraction. You got to fix the system. There's no shortcut here. The more we keep wasting time discussing what tribe is going to do where and which one is going to combine with the other, we are going to waste time. I think what we need to do is we need to roll up our sleeves. We need to ask ourselves, Ayub, a basic indicator of how we want to diagnose this economy. Prior to this administration coming in, we had an inflation rate of almost 6%. Today, that inflation rate has been brought down. Now we are talking about maybe 3.4%. Now that's a very good macroeconomic indicator. Why are people still on the streets? Why are people still on the streets despite the fact that inflation rate is, is going down? It's because the purchasing power, the common 190, we don't have money in our pockets. That's the symptom of what you're seeing here. And so what you need to do to fix that is really to go back and ask yourself, well, how do we then stimulate the economy at a micro level? How do we ensure that we're supporting small businesses? How do we ensure that we have some certain current systems that work in Kenya? How do we promote them? Social sector, instead of having people out there and now running away because of taxes, running away from being formalized into that. These are the questions we're supposed to be grappling with. The government is supposed to be an enabler in order to help increase common 190's purchasing power. Everything else, and I keep saying this, whatever else we discuss here is just we're wasting a lot of time because you will still have people on the streets over and over and over again. There is no shortcut. Okay.
Willis, when we get back from the break, I'll begin with you. And it seems, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing shadowy about the politician, the plan in the public, I mean, the objectification of women in political rallies across the country, the empowerment programs that we had seen dubbed that way. A woman in the county of Kisii was given 2,000 shillings and she had 31 members, each ended up with 64 bob. We'll talk all about that when we get back from the break. And also the youth question and the IBC, what awaits the Erastus Edung Ethicon-led commission ahead of the elections in 2027. All that is on the bench after the break here on the broadcast, and we welcome your questions and observation as well. Later we'll be displaying them on the magic wall before we close up the show. We are back with more after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching JKL, and many thanks for staying with us. Willis Otieno, an advocate of the High Court, joins us this evening in his company. Javas Bigambo, governance and political commentator. Sheila Olangis, development economist, and Professor Lukoye Atwoli is the dean at the Aga Khan University. And Willis, I was on you. Given the circumstances and what we are seeing, talking about the morals and the questions they are in, disturbing is it by political establishment in the objectification of women in their political rallies?
You know, you must first look at where we are as a country. We are going through an economic revolution. People are there fighting for justice. And look at the response from the legacy politicians. They think that the revolution is just a touch and go button, that they can always go back to that which they knew. That which they know is that kind of conduct that you see, for example, in these so-called economic forums, where they parade women, tell them to turn around, and the crowd to cheer, and then you show them their backsides or their bodies, objectifying women. So it's a legacy political platform that is bereft of any morals. It's actually disgusting, even to the audience that you're addressing, when you tell a woman leader to stand up, to dance, and to turn around, to be seen. It tells you, in my view, that this system that you're operating under, its time is up. The people are more interested in fulfilling the economic revolution, which is about creating a society that works for all of us economically. As Sheila put it very well, it's stupid. Anything else, like they try to distract us to discuss questions of accountability, corruption, governance. No. You can attend to all of those issues. But if you don't focus on the economy, and why the economy? Look at the trigger of the Gen Z revolution, that economic revolution. It was the finance bill. And why did the finance bill of 2024 trigger it? Kenyans were going through pain. They didn't have money in their pockets. But then you had here a piece of legislation telling you that in your poverty, in your misery, in your lack of money, I am coming to get more. I am now coming for a pound of your flesh to live a large life. But why did the government come to ask for more when even them they knew this was going to be unpopular? It's debt. Nobody's talking about our debt situation. 70% of your revenue is going to pay for debt. You are left with 30 shillings, 30%. 30 shillings out of every 100 Kenya shillings. With 30%, you need almost 50 to pay salaries. You need 35 to send to counties. What remains for development? They keep going back to the market to borrow. And these are conversations that I assure you, Ayub, no legacy politician will want to have it. Why? Because they are the ones who took these illegal debts. They'll rather come and burden the Kenyan people with the obligation to pay for this. And before we address the debt question, we will have more and more protests. Even if you 100% address the questions of corruption, even you address the extrajudicial killings, Kenyans will still come out because you'll be coming back to them every year, every day, to raise their taxes, charges, and levies. We must get that odious debt.
Who in your view are the original sinners? Because Kibaki left us with something.
In fact, by the time when Kibaki was leaving, we were only paying 18% of our revenue was going to debt finance. So which means out of every 100 Kenya shillings, 18 shillings was going to finance debt. A very comfortable space to be. Today, it's 70%. Who are the original sinners? The original sinners is William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. Their administration, the people who perpetuated it, who endeared it. Aden Duale moved a motion in Parliament to amend the PFM Act to allow for spending of debt taken abroad at source without even landing in the exchequer account. That is how Eurobond 1, for example, that money, $2 billion US, only $1 billion US could be accounted for that landed in Kenya. $1 billion US landed in a private account in Qatar. The second person was Mbadi, who seconded the motion, moved by Duale. The other person we must pay attention to is the Accountant General, the ones who opened fake accounts in the JP Morgan, the Kenya sovereign account. We must call. How is it that today you are telling us our debt stock is 11.5 trillion, and you keep coming to the Kenyan people as the sovereign to finance that theft? And we did not receive the 11.5 trillion. You cannot show us projects in this country today that are worth 11.5 trillion in 10 to 12 years. That to me is the problem.
All right.
And we must address it. Issue-based politics that is focused on the economy.
Okay. And the economy can be better in a country where institutions are functional. That brings us to the question of parliament, Javas. Other than the objectification of women in their political rallies, they have the power over the purse, and all these allocations, not without their approval, can they go under the radar? How did it happen that all these flew under their attention with no accountability?
Parliament is the backbone of governance in Kenya. When you look at matters legislation, when you look at matters allocation of sufficient resources to government institutions, all that is done by Parliament. But over time, of course, we have seen the limitation and the challenge that Parliament has always continued to be. And many times, Parliament working so hard, of course, to let down Kenyans. And that is despicable. Now, when you look at the economic situation and the indices, some of the variables that even my brother Willis has mentioned to do with the state of the economy, the national debt, unemployment issues that we were deliberating on a little earlier. These are issues that have not been faced by our leaders in a very critical and courageous way. Now, Kenya is not in the worst place if we're to look at real statistics. Now, let me pick, for instance, unemployment. When you look at unemployment rates, Kenya, when you look at just the African continent, Kenya ranks at 20%, leading at 23%, followed by Djibouti at 28%. You come and find other countries such as Eswatini with 25% unemployment. Ages of 20 to 30 are the ones that are in this challenge of unemployment. And every single year, close to 60,000 young people are getting into the job market. From the 79 universities that we have, both private and public, and the youth bulge challenge. We need to comparative analysis of the situation in Africa. We'll say we have got countries that have got a huge unemployment here, but the issue is that people, the youth and ordinary citizens, are more woke. They are more deliberate about demanding accountability and service delivery from their leaders.
But Javas, this is not about whataboutism. It's about what's for the Kenyan economy and the Kenyan young generation. For instance, the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics points out in its report that there is the continuous informalization of the Kenyan economy. 782,000 created jobs. All that in the informal sector. What was accounted for in the formal sector was roughly about between 75,000 and 78,000. Then how did we deliberately fail to plan when we knew that we had a population growth and we have been churning out graduates from universities? What were the plans that were supposed to have been commensurate to those numbers?
You know, my father has always told me that even if your grandfather was tall, you have got your own growing up to do. Now, we as a people, through our leaders, we have refused to grow up. And that's why constantly we're engaging in what I call the hot air balloon politics, that are the top level in the air. And down here, there are real issues that we need actually to confront. When you look at the political collage, the economic, yes, we've got the informal sector, we've got the formal sector and whatnot, but the myriad challenges are issues that we need to confront. I don't know whether that was, for example, Raila Odinga said that we need to have a conversation for instance. But let me put it this way. You see, as a people, not once being the one being led by the political elites. So that the issue, for example, of unemployment, the issues that led people to go to the streets in the commemoration of the June 25th extrajudicial executions, there are a number of issues that we need to cast our eyes to. For example, let me ask you, Abe, the place of IPOA, it has to investigate cases of extrajudicial execution by police. Look at Section 29 of the IPOA Act on the issue of the conclusion of investigations. It is an open-ended thing. I would be in favor, for instance, to a situation where an amendment to that Section 29 of the IPOA Act provides that we need to have, for example, investigations concluded within 6 months, for instance. Look, do you know that investigations by IPOA from 2024 are still ongoing? Some of the issues that people are chagrined about.
And who makes the amendments?
I'm going back to that. Secondly,
we need a conclusion.
Look at the Office of the Auditor General and Control of Budget. We need to make sense of even these critical reports from these critical institutions. But that's why I've said Parliament has let Kenyans down on many fronts. But now we as a people come to a point where we are saying we are demanding of certain issues in terms of governance. Now, Ayub, do you know that issue of having it improve can take 2 years or 5 years of the Mwai Kibaki leadership, nearly at the sunset of his governance, of his leadership, and after he had left Kenyatta, about SGR and no, listen. No, listen, do a spot check. Then you want what is, of course, while the project employed, for example, but look, there was so much that regime, for instance. But for President William Ruto, he is, I think, I've said that is a president that has been very unfortunate, that from the time he took office, he has faced serious scrutiny by the woke generation, the woke people, demanding from actually within the first year, Willis here was saying that Ruto has a child who is 10 years or a toddler. Are you able to determine whether they'll make a very great grandfather? My point is that we need to come to a point of consciousness.
Okay.
See what is it that can work now. Yeah. What we know, we know that when all institutions come together, in the end, they will work and they'll be productive.
And Prof, you have a point.
Yeah, I think rational humans within the territory of Kenya understand that the economy will not be turned around in a day.
Correct.
Most do. And I do not know anyone who's on the streets asking for the economy to be turned around in a day. People know it will take time to change things and to improve the economy, to improve the standard of living and so on. The thing that annoys people is misuse of public resources. When we are saying we are giving you time to turn around the economy. But then on the other hand, we see fraud, waste, and abuse of public resources, and that is what is annoying people. We see impunity. We see leaders of government standing on platforms and telling people, we will do what we will do, whether you like it or not. We see people saying, while we know that you are highly taxed, we will tax you more. In other words, there's a degree of insensitivity. And this is what annoys people. It's not that people are saying, you have to make the economy grow at 10% the way you said it will within a year. I do not know any rational human in this territory who expects that. But people expect to see that the people who have been given stewardship of national resources are managing them responsibly, that they are not wasting, they are not stealing, they are not misusing, and they are not abusing. And while doing that, they're not standing on podiums and gloating over the people. I think if somebody in leadership was sensitive and said, I understand your suffering, we are doing the best that we can to cushion this, it will take time to grow the economy. The little that we have, this is how we are spending it to improve your lot. I don't know that people will go to the streets and say, stop doing that. I think this is, it's a problem of values. It's a problem of how the leaders are carrying out their leadership tasks. This Constitution of Kenya 2010 was a product of a revolutionary moment. Mm-hmm. It was a revolution. It made promises that would never have been made in this republic in the past. And they went through partly because the people who would have opposed those things, some of them slept on their jaws. They thought, they're fixed small things they don't want there. But then the promises remained. And that revolution was then handed over to counter-revolutionaries. It was handed over to people who were against the revolution. And they were told, steward this revolution going forward. Make sure it works. That was always going to be a challenge. So as time goes by, we are going to have people who truly believe in that revolution, yes, then gradually taking charge and stewarding it in the right direction. I fully agree that, a government elected 2 years ago, nobody would have any expectations of that government, quote unquote, delivering in a grand way on the economy. And I wouldn't even promise that I will. If I would say it will take time in full and so on and so forth. But the little that we have, this is how we are spending it to cushion you and to make sure you're comfortable, even as we grow the pie so that everybody can benefit. That sensitivity, that understanding, that listening ear, okay, when people start making noise, instead of shutting them down, just listening to them and doing something about it is something that, in my view, would calm the temperatures in the land, yeah, and allow those charged with running affairs of the state to do their job peacefully. Yeah.
And Sheila, then how will that conclave was proposed by the former Prime Minister work? And who are the variables and who are the constants?
I think maybe I need to respond to the whole objectification of women. As the only one representing the gender here, the country is 50% female, but I'm the only one sitting here. So yeah, I think I have to speak on behalf of women. Personally, I am a beneficiary of movements like Maendeleo ya Wanawake. I finished high school in Kisumu, and when I finished, I was taken to CSW in New York by maendeleo ya wanawake. So I am a product of strong women who have worked really hard so that we are not objectified. Women who have, worked really hard so that when we stand in leadership positions, they consider us because of what we bring to the table and not because we are objectified. And I have to say, first of all, I pay a big homage to women who have not let us down. When they walked into those doors, they demonstrated the weight, the grit of female leadership, and paved the way for us to go. For example, now, may her soul rest in peace, Dr. Phoebe Asio, who just passed away. We have several examples. I have an aunt of mine, Councillor Margaret Olang, who was part of that movement. So we have a group of women who really led the way for us to go in. And it makes us sad that now we have women who are put on podiums and turned around and objectified when these are leaders. They're young women who are watching this. And I have to tell you this, the long and short of the story is 2027, we're sending them home. If you're a woman who is there in leadership and being objectified instead of paving the way for other younger women to come in. We have a constitutional mandate. It is already difficult for us women to be involved in politics and leadership as it is. We are constantly objectified. So if you have one who is going there and objectifying themselves, we're just taking notes. We are fine. We're just taking notes. And 2027, you can now go and dance in a podium somewhere in your local village, and you can leave the rest for other women to follow, so that we can now focus on the issues. Because women are marginalized people and they actually have issues that need to be addressed.
And the sexualization of political lingo is disturbing, frankly speaking. When people are talking about politics, they talk about it sexually, like it's people having conjugal congress when they're engaging in political conversations. It's frankly disturbing. And this cuts across board. Women leaders, men leaders, they're all talking about political jousting as though it is a sexual contest.
Yeah, and sometimes it gets even worse when we've been given a small quota. We have Article 81 that we are, people are struggling to say, why do they have this women rep positions? What's the point of them? As it is, we struggle to justify those positions. Then you find sometimes it's the same women representative. It's not even an MP, it's the women representative who's there. Some are making headlines for looking for husbands. I mean, it's...
I think I would say that the politics of gymnastics is something that, may not be welcome because of the kind of lessons also that it sends out. Because, for instance, when it's aired on TV, and there's some words that have been used, and you get to wonder whether you'd watch news with your daughter or your son or your nieces. So I think we need to have politicians with some bit of hygiene. And this, for example, has been on the issue of, for example, the two-term, and the issue of how many terms should one serve, etc. And I do not want to go into the derogatory symbolism and reference to. But I think while we know very well that it's during the election that the people have got the time, the drive to determine who is it that has got to occupy office again in whatever office, president, senator, governor, etc. I think it's time enough that we as a people should have leaders who sieve and weigh their words. Even when they're referring to something that they're passionate about.
Absolutely.
But you see, Ayub, one thing that we must not lose focus on, it is not just by accident that they speak like that. It's intentional. Because what the legacy politicians and their system is doing, they are demeaning our politics. They are reducing the debate to be very basic, to be about genitalia and women physique. And we should not even give them much credence to spend even more than 5 minutes to discuss that. Because they are now distracting us from the important economic conversation that the Kenyan people, in a revolution, to an extent that for the first time in the history of mankind, I've never seen humans walking towards bullets. I saw in Parliament June 25th last year. People are being shot and they're walking towards it to fight for their liberation. That is a difficult conversation for legacy politicians. They would rather the nation discusses dancing on a political podium and objectifying women. So when we pay attention to it, but we give it very little premium, but we focus on the main issue, which the Kenyan people are dying out of the streets for. Kenyans are not dying on the streets because of a woman dancing. Yes, Kenyans are dying on the streets because of the failed economy. But and that revolution, let's just finish this.
Let's just finish.
That economic revolution is one that will benefit all Kenyans, irrespective of their gender, of their age, their political party, for as long as you have an economy that works for everybody.
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, then that takes us to the other important component about lives and the young people we have lost. The failure in accountability. What happened to Boniface Karaoke, the mask vendor, Albert Ojwang, who died in a place that was ought to have been the safe space where he would have been protected and presented before a court of law, the young people's voices, and who continue to call for good governance after the break. Plus, also the IEBC and what awaits the Erastus Ethicon-led commission ahead of the 2000 priority areas, the quick fixes, the pending by-elections across wards and constituencies in the country. All that after the break with the lady and the gentleman here on the bench. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching JKL, and many thanks for staying with the bench tonight. Professor Lukwea, Tuolang, Willis Otieno, and Javas Bigambo. Many thanks for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Coming to you first, Prof. Kenya's young voices have arguably achieved what any other politician has never. Bringing Parliament to standstill, MPs scampering for safety because they're simply dead against the punitive tax proposals that were contained in the 2024 finance bill. But it's disturbing, is it, what followed thereafter? The killings, the enforced disappearances, and some dying in police custody.
Yeah. I think, as I said earlier, the software of the police is old, and it's as old as 40 years, 50 years ago, during the Moi and Kenyatta regimes, when dissent was criminalized and people could legitimately be detained under the law because of dissenting and disagreeing with government. That is a software that a lot of the people running our security services, running our intelligence services, running political offices still have that software. Unfortunately, the hardware on which they're operating, the people have, and people expect that they should be able to dissent and be allowed to do so. One other piece of that software, which is chilling to me and very worrying, is the very low value placed on human life. The very, very, very diminishing low value placed on human life. And I hear it from the security operatives saying, you know, I have a gun, I'm on the street, and if you show up, I'll shoot you and I'll kill you. And imagine what kind of value does this person place on a human life? I hear it from politicians, I hear it from cabinet secretaries saying, you will be killed and you will die, and you know, you'll be shot and you will die.
And I'm sure you must have also heard from the president.
Shoot on the leg.
Yeah, I heard that about shooting on the leg. We worry about that as well. You know, you can die from gunshot wounds to the leg. And if we were going to have a conclave, my idea is that part of the conversation in a gathering like that, a gathering of Kenyans, not of Kenyan politicians, but of Kenyans, is how much value do we place on a human life? The young people have demonstrated that they place absolute high value on human life. They have mourned every single person who has been killed. They have attended funerals. They have eulogized them. They have cried. And they have said, this should never happen. The older folk, the politicians, have explained it away. They have justified it. They have said, why are you guys so surprised? We used to do this. I mean, people have been killed all over the place. Why are you surprised about this ones? Because of the very low value that we place on human life. And one of the things that we do, which we sometimes study, is that we place huge premium on our own lives and of lives of people who look like us, who sound like us, and who live with us, but we place very low premium on those others. And we have otherized some groups in the population whose value is so low that if they died, it shouldn't even warrant a paragraph in a newspaper to say a human being has died. That culture must change. And if we're going to have a conclave, that is what we must confront. Is regrettable. Everything necessary will be done to bring to book the person responsible for taking a human life on Kenyan soil. If that simple value pervades everything that we do, you will see less corruption, you will see more responsibility, you will see more accountability, and you'll see people making laws that are just and taking actions that are just. But as long as we hierarchize human lives and place ours at the top of the pyramid and otherize some people who it's okay to kill because, they're of no value to us or to this economy, as long as we have that attitude, and it's not only protests that you see and the people being killed, also for the older folk and the politicians, it's also ethnic. There are people who come from communities that it's okay to kill, and then there are others whom you shouldn't kill. It's about, religion. It's about this sectarianism that we have in this country where we say it's okay for some people to die. That would be the subject of a conclave in my mind. Not to discuss how to fix the economy, because that's already established. I mean, you don't need to change the constitution to fix the economy. Not to discuss employment. Not to discuss how to stop people from being corrupt. It's already written in the books that we shouldn't steal. And we are stealing. But it's about what value. When I'm stealing money meant for medicine for children in the hospital and the children are dying because there's no medicine in the hospital, what value am I putting in their lives? When somebody is shot and I go out there and I say he was in the wrong place, why was he there and was shot in the head, and we see a policeman aiming a gun at his head and shooting and that person dies, and we still explain it away, what value do we place on a human life entry? That to be the conclave. None of that other political nonsense that people want to go and discuss and say, create this position, create this other position, give this tribe this, give this other tribe that. That is absolute nonsense that we shouldn't entertain in a national conversation.
And Sheila, is it more concerning then when we hear more about weaponization of to charge Kenyans, and we have seen a majority of them cannot even meet the cash bail terms, bond terms?
I mean, I think this country needs to stop treating us young people as if we are children of a lesser God, because we're not. If the system worked in our favor, we'd be occupied. We'd be busy with running businesses, we'd employ, we would have, no time to go and agitate in the streets. The fact, and I see this before, the fact that when we lose a young person, the kind of response we get, the lack of empathy, the lack of parental guidance, the lack of love, that our parents are then dismissed, that they should have raised us better. And I always, sometimes when we discuss within us, we say, at the end of the day, we have time. Sadly enough, they've made up the system where we actually have time. Like we can do this. And a lot of young people are feeling like they have nothing to lose. And it's really bad when you're sitting somewhere and you're trying to argue with someone who feels like they have nothing to lose. So when you tell them, no, we have to have a country that has to have a future, we're not seeing this future because we don't have investments, we're educated, so that's fine. We can go on TikTok and we can understand what's going on. But what is it exactly that we have to lose? The one thing that nobody wants to lose is the Kenya that is coming on into the future. We will be here 20, 30 years from now, apart from, of course, God permitting. We are the ones who'll be sitting here and we'll be steering this country. So everything we're doing is because of the love of this country. And unfortunately, the backlash we get is, but you're children of a lesser God. So let's not treat your, when you're killed, it's less important than when, someone of a different class is killed, for example. But it is not deterring us. And I think for a young person who's watching out there, like we've made tremendous progress. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, we are writing history and we're working hard so that we have a country that is there to provide for us, that we are paying attention to the debts that, we're accumulating now to be able to pay it in the future. And we should not be discouraged. As with any revolution, you have to walk through the journey and understand it starts off, it goes, it peaks, and sometimes we have downtime where other people try to take advantage of the revolution. But at the end of the day, we are on track. We are saying that we want a better Kenya, no matter what the position looks like, whether it's, President Ruto again in 27 or somebody else or whatever. At the end of the day, we are working for a system that will benefit everybody, by the way, including the political class. So today you're charging those with terrorism. Yeah. Tomorrow the wheels turn around. Now you're sitting in the opposite side. And how would you feel, for example, if Prof now is running the country and then takes you, who is the CS now, and charges you with terrorism? I mean, this intimidation tactics, you cannot intimidate 75% of a population. You're running a battle that you cannot win. Yeah. You cannot intimidate 75% of a population. Yeah. What you need to do is, like I said before, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's have a forum where we can speak to each other, but listening to each other, not just speaking at each other, so that we start coming up with solutions. This theatrics that you're seeing in court today are only energizing the young people more. They're like, oh, okay, now you're charging us with terrorism. Well, let's go so we can all be charged with terrorism. And that's the conversation everybody's having. Let's all become terrorists now. You see? So, which is not helping, because now the courts will be full and we won't be able to, to prosecute everyone for terrorism. Kenya, when it comes to Kenya and the youth and where we are today, by the way, it's not that we're not warned. I remember President Uhuru said, we have a ticking time bomb here, which is the youth. And now we're at a place where we see that the time bomb is exploding. If they don't go back to the drawing board, we are here, we're not going anywhere, and we'll just keep demanding that we need a better country, no matter what. And Kenya doesn't belong to anybody. It doesn't belong to the youth. It doesn't belong to the political class. It belongs to all of us. And unfortunately, the tactics that are being used today do not correspond to the population that we have today. Yeah.
And Java's CS Kipchumba Murkomen sounds George W. Bush, and his affection for the terrorism tag in the aftermath of 9/11 appears clearly this, from the political class, the momentum is continually slipping away.
Well, talk of George W. Bush, it reminds me of the Patriot Act. And why it was enacted, of course, after the 2001 Twin Towers bombings. But I think, like Sheila said, we need to find solutions as a people, and we also need leaders who find solutions to create that better country that unavoidably we must create it, because we don't have any other country. And I think when you look at CS Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen and the suggestions that he has given, the policy that, for example, he promulgated, and some of these things which, of course, have been within the body of law and policy in the country, I think what is more important could be the approach to framing of issues. Because at times, for instance, and what even Professor here has indicated, a politician could be standing or coming from a place where they have got this idea that they want to explain, and maybe they have the issue is the framing. Now, the other thing is that when it comes to the issue of police officers, for example, using firearms to forestall persons by immobilizing them, maybe who are engaging in criminal activities, of course we know that is even in our law. But I think we need to come to a point where the CS or the leaders do not make the people perceive that the police are out to harm them. So the framing of the messaging is something that's very crucial, so that it should not be perceived. We know that all over the world, everywhere, police will try to immobilize somebody who is committing a crime or trying to get away. The other thing that, in terms of the solutions that we need to have and must have, is that we as a people have permitted bad eggs to hatch. And sadly, we are having lots of these bad eggs hatching. And we have leaders who are not looking at the kind of policy-driven politics to give solutions. Earlier, you had asked questions to my fellow panelists about the transatlantic toing and froing of words, etc., of the vengeful former deputy or impeached deputy Rigathi Gachagua. I have not heard, for example, any of the opposition leaders give an electrifying speech about any constructive alternatives that they have, say that alternatives to the policies of President William Ruto, or even the way forward. It is about tribalism and how these few tribes should come together in a sanguinal amalgamation to have somebody out of office. Then after you get into what? This politics of vacuity is something that is also not helping us to get to the solutions. Ayub,
should then be, given that you have diagnosed the problem, and Dr. is here, should the prescription then begin at the doorstep of the executive? When the president, for example, says, look, my cabinet ministers, you are incompetent, and he gave them the job.
First, the president always presides over the signing of the performance contract by the cabinet secretaries and the principal secretaries. Kenyans would want to see the president cracking the whip on those cabinet secretaries forming, as a matter of fact. Secondly,
how does politics obstruct that?
Well, of course, we know politics about interests and various interests that are served. But Kenyans are not driven and don't care much about the interests. Kenyans want services delivered. So the president, if it is satisfied with a particular cabinet secretary or principal secretary, have them out of the office. Now, do you know that we're likely to make various similar mistakes in the coming years when we go to the election? It's not just about the executive, for instance. Look at all these other positions, including MCAs and senators. People vote for various reasons, some of them out of vengeance. And today, for example, when you look at the conglomeration of the opposition, most of these guys who've been in the executive for decades, from the late 80s, some of these people held executive positions before even the parents of the Gen Zs got married. They are here telling the Gen Z and the people that they are ready to take the country forward. And the Gen Z should be watchful and hawk-eyed in 2027 so that votes are not stolen. They are not asking them to run for office. They're asking them to watch over so that they can get into office. What absence of mindfulness is this? And that's why we are having, in the alternative of the current administration, are people who want to get into office to do nothing because they have no alternatives. They are not even giving provisional solutions. And I think now in the administration of President William Ruto, because that's where we are right now, what is important? President William Ruto, last year when he delivered his State of the Nation address, he said that his is a listening administration. Kenyans still hang on to those words. President, if you are listening and when you are listening, people want the cabinet to perform. People want principal secretaries to perform. People want ministries to perform. That's what Kenyans want.
So the talk is then, as I go to Will, is a collective Kano punishment.
You know, one thing that I find interesting with my relative, Javas is captured by the legacy politicians to the extent that he's discussing our coming governance based on William Ruto Kenya Kwanza and the Wamunyoro group. Okay, let me just finish. That is why he's looking for the alternative. He's looking for an alternative. Let me just you respond. Let me just finish.
For me, I would rather even President William Ruto goes all the way to 2032.
Just listen to my thought. He's looking at William Ruto.
And we are not discussing.
Just allow me to Javas, please. Allow me to talk. I kept quiet. He's looking at President Ruto Kenya Kwanza, and he's looking at what is called alternative opposition. For your information, Kenyans are in neither. They are no longer interested in legacy politics. These are revolution. These are an economic revolution. So, Javas, when you are looking for that which is the alternative, you don't even bother to ask me, Willis Otieno, now they talk about these economic things. What do you stand for? What is your alternative? Because I'm also an alternative. And there are many other Kenyans who are saying we are looking for alternative politics. And I'll give you an example. What is the number one thing that is making Kenyans not to get jobs? What is messing up our economy? Number one is odious debt. I've told you we are taking domestic debts here. Right now, it's the debt stock of domestic debt is 8 trillion Kenya shillings, held by Kenya government. You imagine if Kenya government was to stop borrowing from the domestic market and you release 8 trillion to be accessible to Kenyans at lower interest rates with our ideas, with our innovations, and now access to capital. What can't we do here as a people? Interest rates will fall from 18%, 20% to almost 2%, 3%. Kenyans will have an entire market in Africa to invent and to sell their produce. That is what others, for example, Safina Party, we promise. We are not going to borrow from the domestic market. And we believe with that alone, there will be immediate relief when people are able to access capital and they're able to commercialize their inventions. When you talk about that, oh, economy cannot change within a short time, why Kibaki became president? On the 3rd of January 2023, immediate instant relief that he gave to Kenyan people, free primary education. What was that? That was not just a social intervention. It was also an economic stimulus plan. That he said, this family that is paying 5,000 Kenya shillings per term per child, I am giving that parent 5,000 shillings back to your pocket. If you are buying half a loaf for your children every morning, now with 5,000 shillings that you've saved per child, you are able to buy a full loaf every morning for your children. The baker must bake more bread. The baker must employ more people. Government will stimulate the economy through that program that you are able to start feeling immediately instant relief. Those are the kind of things that Kenyans want to discuss. We are going through an economic revolution. We are not discussing legacy politicians. We've been there, done that. The sum total of legacy politics is where we are today. 60 years of pain, 60 years of despair, 60 years of despondency. It is now time for Kenyans to move the conversation to be about what do you promise us? What can we do as a people to change our lives? And it must be captured in the economic revolution when people have money in their pockets. Even the issues of accountability you're talking about, the issues of police brutality you're talking about, it will not be there. Police brutality that we are witnessing today did not start because somebody was killed in a police cell. No. Police brutality started in this particular administration for the entire 2 or 3 after the Azimio protest. People kept quiet. It is when they promised more economic pain that people said no. They exercised their Article 37 rights to agitate for their voices to be heard. That is when the response of legacy politicians and William Ruto was to shoot at them. So when you discuss accountability, you are discussing the response to the problem. Those are just the symptoms. But the core issue here is an economy that has collapsed and the people are fighting for economic.
And when the economy is revived, it has to have the people who ought to benefit. Is therefore the discussion on life and the sanctity of life outweighs any other thing.
No, what I'm saying is this. Yeah. We must not just discuss the questions of the accountability issues without asking ourselves the primary question, why did we get here in the first place? We got here in the first place because of the economy. That's the first debate. The second conversation is now on the question of accountability. These policemen who've been killing our young people, they must be called to account. And I always say this. These policemen being used by legacy politicians to kill our young people, I assure you, there is no limitation of action in criminal law. You will be tried even in retirement when the revolution of the young people succeeds. They will try you and they will charge you for the offenses of murder, forced disappearances, and abduction. That is a guarantee that they must live with. They have defined their exit in public service.
Thank you. Yes, Sheila, before we move to the IBC.
Right. And I think I would also, just to kind of add on to the conversation, anybody who is now thinking, okay, let me get President Ruto out and let me become the next president, whoever that person may be, think twice, think 3 times. It is not a walk in the park. In fact, I sympathize with you. If you decide you want to be the president of this country in 2027, I completely sympathize with you because the issues will remain the same. It doesn't matter who will be sitting in that chair. If you're not ready to tackle these issues and you're going there because you are from this tribe or whatever tribe or this legacy, that legacy, that's why when people start off hijacking this conversation of the economic revolution with, this one term, 2 term must go is not going, irrelevant. Even if President Ruto stays in 2027 and the problem still persists, same problem. Even if you take and you place him with the next one and the problem still persists, same problem. So even the people who are auditioning for this role, they need to understand. The people who are busy auditioning for this role need to understand we are still coming for their necks. So I really, really sympathize with it. Let them reflect a little bit. It's not business as usual. Huh? It's not going in there and then I'm the president and you're running things around.
Okay, absolutely.
That one is done. You and Misha.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The iconic moment for me last year was when a young man was on the streets shouting slogans, running around, and the media guys, including international media, stopped him and said, "What are you agitating about?" And he said, "I want this, I want this, I want this. We are jobless. I'm educated. I have no job," and so on. And he said so many things. And then this guy said, "But you're shouting that the president must go. Do you want to be president?" And he looked at these media guys and he was shocked. He had visible shock on his face. But why would I ever want to be president of this country? It's a tough job. It's a tough job. I wouldn't want to do it. What I want is that the people who are in charge do this, do this, do this, do this.
You see, you are right, Prof. You know, an easy always lays the head that wears the crown. When you're president, no decision you make can be easy, except if you want to make easy ones. And today we've listened to President William Ruto saying that he's had to make and he's going to make hard decisions. You see, earlier Professor Lukoye had mentioned about the conclave and what is it then that should be considered. My brother Willis has mentioned about the odious debt and the manner in which our national debt is. You see, the people can decide. Yes, that is Safina Party's proposal. And it's true that that could be one of the proposals for a possible conclave or discussion, that we as a people want a nation that does not keep having its debt soar. Because look, in the next 50 years that Sheila mentioned, when we will be seated here, and I want to hope that you will host us in the next 50 years, God willing, to discuss this and say how far we've traveled, we want to have that opportunity to discuss these issues and say that as a country, we are safeguarding that safety net. And remember, I began by saying that democracy is a child of conversation or dialogue. We need to have this perpetual dialogue for our own good to get us out of all this. And on the issues of the president making decisions, your party leader, if in future he becomes president, for instance, and Willis maybe become deputy president, you will be faced by these hard choices as well. And that's why when a president sits and is making hard choices, we as a people have a right to interrogate those choices. And when some choices are good, we say, press on with them. When some choices and decisions are a challenge to us as a people, then we say, Mr. President, reconsider or consider these other choices that you've made.
Beginning with you, Prof, the IEBC is now fully reconstituted. Erastus Edung Ethicon, there are perceptions about it, the trust deficit. The Let Chebukati's commission exited office in a lot of despair. We had seen 4 commissioners who had broken off on the 15th of August 2022, the Cherera 4, as they were codenamed. What should be the priority areas and how can they shake off these perceptions?
So the first thing is a history of electoral commissions in Kenya and how they are formed. And they have been basically conclaves, if you like, of political interests. Commissioners have gone into this commission with the perception that they represent certain political interests. And the political parties and the formations in the political class have negotiated who's going to be in that commission in order to create a perception of fairness. So that's the first problem. And that problem is that that method of doing things is in the past. It is the IPPG way of doing things where the politicians sit down and say, put so and so that I'm sure that my votes will be counted. That's the old way of doing things. But today that perception still exists because the process of appointment of these commissioners is still rife with political intrigue, is still rife with political influence, is still rife with horse trading and sometimes even some ethnic thinking that maybe if I put somebody in that place who's from my ethnicity, they will protect my vote. That's old thinking. Because ideally this commission ought to be a body that is sitting up here, making decisions, and then having people on the ground running things. And those people will be running things based on protocols, based on the law, based on provisions of the law. And that shouldn't favor any individual. It will be fair to everyone. So expecting that because I have a commissioner from Huisero in my village, now I can become president, that is the old way of thinking. But the way the politicians are handling these commissioners, the way the commissioners are handling themselves, still leaves the perception that their software has not changed and they are still thinking, they are doing the bidding of politicians rather than the bidding of the Kenyan person. The IEBC is an independent commission, constitutional commission. It is created, it's a creature of the Constitution, and it has been given responsibilities by the Constitution on behalf of the people, not on behalf of the political parties, not on behalf of politicians. But the mindset of IPPG, of Moi sitting down with Raila and the opposition and so on, and host trading and saying, you have 3 people in there and I have 2 and the other person can have 5, that mentality still exists in the political class, and it doesn't reflect the thinking in the majority of the voters. The majority of the voters want a commission that functions based on what the Constitution wants it to do, not a commission that does the bidding of individuals. So for as long as the commission does not shed off that tag of being an avenue for political horse trading and being a space where political interests are being safeguarded in there, as long as it doesn't shed off that tag, they will not have the full benefit of the trust of the Kenyan people. People will still be suspicious, elections will still be looked at with a jaundiced eye, and the results of those elections will still be contested heavily for as long as that perception exists.
Sheila, for the young people, what are the priority areas?
Get my ID, register to vote. We're voting in 2027. We're not playing about that. So, you know, we're picking our battles at this point. Jafis is laughing. The slogan is very simple. We're starting to see now, for example, I saw there's concerts that are coming up. If you want to get into the concert, you need to have your voter registration. That's going to be the way to let you into the concert, as long as you're over 18. So we're trying to find creative, inventive ways in order to get everybody to register and to show up to the polls and to squash all of this, the back and forth that we're seeing within the political class. I'm expecting that we see a big shift right from the grassroots moving on up. In terms of the commission, like I said, I mean, it's very difficult. I hope that the commission understands that there is an integrity attached to them. I hope they understand that the job at stake here is that you're dealing with a population that has a trust deficit in the election cycle, and that they would honor that as, well-meaning Kenyans, and they deliver. I mean, other than that, from my perspective, isn't much we can do. All I know is we need to start registering and we need to start mobilizing, because we're going to make a difference in the poll. I think we're going to send a very strong message as young people on who Kenya actually belongs to, that we are not visitors in this country, that Kenya belongs to us. So straight from MCAs to the MPs to anybody, now we're activated, and we're looking forward to IEBC to actually start rolling out, procedures on how we can do this.
Yeah, and how can the young voices, Willis, be accommodated in spite of the political interferences that we are seeing? And Wafula Chebukati, the late, pointed out in an address to the people of Kenya in 2019 that political interference plays a huge part in the destruction of the commission from it's on its pathway, causing all the destruction that he had at the time pointed out. We had claims of rigging claims from at least 3 politicians, and one, Nelson Koech, the Belgut MP, who said that this current administration is granted that it will get another term.
That is
the democracy.
That's the space of legacy politicians. I say this with tremendous respect. You see, that was their old politics. We are now going through a revolution. And that revolution will be realized at the ballot. And the people of Kenya will use IEBC as a tool of the revolution. It will not be controlled by the legacy politicians or their stooges at IEBC. The most important ingredient in any election are the people. Even if you want to rig an election, you rig numbers representing the people. I need to imagine that on the June 25th, we'll have memorial of election year. On 7th of July, we'll have Sabasaba. And on the 8th of August, we'll have Nane Nane. And we'll have elections on the 10th of August. The run-up to that will be a demonstration by the people of Kenya that we are taking over control. And the number that you'll see coming out to vote will be phenomenal. And there's no IEBC. There'll be no military. There's no police that will be able to stand in the way of what the people will be agitating for. Instruments can only be used to rig or to manipulate voting when it is legacy politicians engaging in their own and playing Kenyans in tribes. So that is now tribe A going to war with tribe B. What we are going to witness is Kenyans voting on an issue, the economy, that is cross-cutting across all tribes, that they will not allow themselves to be manipulated on tribal basis to determine the vote. Let me just say one other thing as I conclude on the question of the conclave. The only conclave the Kenyan people want to have, if you ask me, is a conclave that's announced by William Ruto saying, I am going to resign as your president effective this date. Let us have a conclave to discuss the steps that needs to be taken before the date of my resignation takes effect. That is the only kind of a conversation that we can have. Anything short of that, all the reasons, all the things that needs to be done have been done from NADCO to BBG to 10-point agenda, and they've not been fulfilled. What remains is that for him to say, I'm resigning effective 30th of August, 2026 to 2025. So between now and 30th of August, 2025, can we have a conversation to agree on what minimum things that needs to be done?
And if he doesn't resign by then?
And if he doesn't resign by then there's no need of that conclave. Why are you having it? He loses the goodwill for any engagement. Because before he had said, I'm not going to kill our people. He's killed more this year than he killed last year. So what are we having a conversation about? Then that's why the conclave can die. Don't have it. Okay. Let the water find its level.
Yeah. Javas, it seems a long pathway ahead for Erastus Edung, Ethicon, and the commission.
Ayub, as you can see on this bench, we are all patriots. We all love this country. We don't need a patriotometer to determine who loves this country more than the other. The issue here for discussion, even as we look at elections, all of us want credible elections, verifiable elections. And my brother Willis was in the Supreme Court. Of course, remember him singing Piki Piki Ponki. And the issue there, when you look at the decision of the Supreme Court, there were critical issues that were distilled. IEBC right now should start looking at the various recommendations, not just in this judgment of 2022, going back in time, going to 2017, going all the way to 2013,
yeah,
so that it understands and appreciates what were the legitimate issues that were breeding discontent in those elections. You see, if elections were a labor ward or a labor room, IEBC is the midwife. And the midwife must be competent, must be ready, must be tooled for the moment. At this moment, as we speak, the issue of tallying and transmission of presidential results, the issue of technology, so that in 2027, the talk, as Willis was saying, the Supreme Court of the other guy with a funny name from across the ocean should not be seen in a bathroom being a plumber that refused to leave the bathroom after doing his job.
Talking about Jose Camargo.
Exactly. I just did not want to mention the name. That was referring to the symbolism that he gave. Secondly, on the issue of building public trust, IEBC must go out of his way. When all these commissioners were being vetted, you would see that they fully fathom issues of electoral governance, issues of the law, issues of policy. But there's no problem with those issues. It comes to the persons. On Chair Ethicon, we've got Dr. Lutalala, we've got Commissioner Ann. People want to know that these commissioners, as E.G. White put it, cannot be bought or sold at any price on any market. Second, winning public trust. Having engagements with the academia, civil society, ordinary citizens. This year we saw the CS for Treasury Mbadi engaging with people of Bunge la Mwananchi in a very informal discussion issue. It is important for the IEBC, led by the commissioners, to get out of the comfort zone, out of the ordinary, the normal approaches of releasing press statements, trying to give confidence to the public about the readiness, preparation, and it's going to be seen through all these the by-elections that are lined up. But we want the commissioners and the commission to humanize the people's desire and needs and the management of the elections. The other thing is that the timeliness. Look, already we are seeing concerns about generative AI in election and the role it's going to play. Before even Chair took office and the commissioners, already there was a statement attributed to him, which IEBC recanted later on by a stamp of fake.
Yeah.
How is IEBC preparing itself on countering or using generative AI for good and countering the ills and the negatives of generative AI? The place of technology is going to be very important in managing the 2027 elections.
Thank you.
I don't think they've started on a good footing, by the way. Because there is a lot of there's a lot of activity across the country related to recalling MPs that people are dissatisfied with, and people have filed petitions with the commission. But the messaging from the commission suggests that we are not going to do anything about it. Already, I mean, basically dismissing the people by creating an existing loophole, saying, "Oh, the judgment that removed certain sections from that law made it inoperative." That's absolutely untrue, because you have regulations. You can receive these petitions. You can look at them and make sure that they conform with the law, and you can go ahead and run a recall vote. But then instead of telling us how you can do that, you're telling us it is impossible to do it. You're starting on a very bad footing, because next time we'll be coming to tell you that there's a problem in the political landscape that you are empowered to fix, and you'll be telling me it is impossible for me to do anything about it. It is a continuation of the IEBC behavior from the past, where they sit aside from the people and do not look like they're here to serve the people according to the Constitution. So these are the things they need to start checking early on, keeping an eye on 2027, knowing that there's going to be an even greater deficit of trust if they continue along this trajectory.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what Kenyans are saying. Some questions, some observations. You'll be responding to some. Nyantika Chester says Kenyans are generally a peaceful lot, but unfortunately they have been taken for granted and pushed to the wall by the latter day. Okay. Willis, you can pronounce that.
Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette.
Those uncalled for utter opulence, largesse, and wastage is a mockery and nauseates the citizenry big time. Mark _Makuda says Kenya has good formulated policies, but when it comes to implementation, we fail miserably. These empowerment programs are just political campaigns the government is using for their own political mileage. And it continues. And says politics shape the development of any nation. Kenyan politics shouldn't be based on emotions, but rather in issues. Governance has failed from corruption and abductions, police brutality that ought to have been addressed. Kenyans deserve service delivery, not double speak. Captain Kipkorir says, ask the Deputy President designate of Safina Party Kenya and running mate to Jimmy Wanjigi, Willis Otieno, what his plans for Kenya should he take office. Can he tell us anything unique that Safina Party has for the Gen Zs he is exciting?
Yes, I've just...
A potential voter.
These are potential voters. And I've just told you, for us, is about not paying the odious debt. And we promise government not borrowing from the domestic market. You access that 8 trillion Kenya shillings as a Kenyan. With it, this economy will change.
Gitai Joel says, a hungry man is an angry man. You can never contain hungry men and women, not even children. We are addressing the main issues. We keep on going round and worsening the situation. Many of the youths are now into drug abuse. Orutwasam says, I think it's time those in power and the others in the opposition gave citizens a chance to decide who they think is suitable to lead the country instead of using language likely to incite people against each other or the other group, which is totally wrong. Again, Rumor says, when will the president address the real issues affecting the people, such as unemployment, police brutality, abductions, bad governance, and corruption? We are tired of left.
That was the conversation over it there, and I think we have come to the coming to that end. I would like to you continue sharing your comments too, and share the video to at least among the 10 groups and also among the 20 people, so that they can get the information that we have got in there. For those who join up the show, I want to appreciate you. Please keep up the spirit. Let us meet tomorrow on the same platform, doing the same thing. And for those who are everywhere, please just do something and God will bless you. For those who want to support the Sound Candy Talk, use the details scrolling on the screen and God will bless you to be part and parcel and partnership for this. For those in Kenya, you can use the till number, which is 516575, or you can use the Benaz number, which is +254 718 454 and it'll be good so that we can continue pushing Sound Candy Talk ahead. That can be move ahead. So please, I want to urge you, please let us invite people to share this live and this podcast so that you can go on. So I want to update you the skills of the weeks. We'll be having the podcast today and earlier we have podcast today. So feel free to join the podcast too. We'll having the discussion on the desk. And also you have the show that's coming up very soon that's called In Our Families. In our families, there's a lot of things that happen. So we will be sharing out and trying to sort out things that happen inside our families so that we can have peace and unity inside our family. So I want to urge you, please, let us think about this and let us set out some good perspective whereby we will do everything accordingly and just accordingly to how things are supposed to be done. And we'll be doing everything prospectively with the understanding, not just doing things because we're doing it, but doing things because we are doing it to the right trajectory and the right direction. So what I want to urge you, please, let us come together, unite Kenyan, and make Kenya to be one, and make Kenya to be the place that everyone can like to be, and everyone can like to be participator of it. For those who still needs the book is still there. Just call Bernard and you'll get the book, Marriage Ready, or the other copies of the other books, and God will bless you all. So I want to ask you, please, if you feel you can be wanted to be hosted on one of our podcasts, just feel free, share with me the information of my number, which is +254 794 261 310, +254 794 261 310, and it will be good so that you can also be a part of that. I've been your host, Naisha Dizo. Let us meet next time to the next show next. Thank you. God bless you. Bye bye.
Watu wa Mungu, Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Kipindi cha mahubiri kimerudi tena kwa kishindo kwenye Sound Candy Talk. Tunakufundisha, kukuelimisha na kukutia moyo kwenye Daily Bite. Mafundisho kamili ya Biblia kila siku kwenye runinga uipenda ya Sound Candy Talk. Tonight.
Basi yule mtoto akasema ile siku moja mimi sijaenda kanisani na Yesu Kristo anakuja.
Because kuleta ndege ya Chief of Defense Forces down is not only negligence but criminal negligence.
Nilikuja hapa hadi ya Gong nikamwambia mchague Ruto. Na mimi naomba msamaha.
Na mchezo huu rais, ni mchezo ambao utakusaidia wewe rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Ni mchezo ambao unakufundisha jinsi vile kufanya kazi.
Your Excellency, what helped that case was there was a policeman who recorded his statement in English.
Sasa huyu ndiye nilipiga kofi. Juzi ndio amenipigia simu akaniambia